¡Mamá! ¡El perro se culió a la gallina! ¿Por qué, perro culiao?
Este camino de humillaciones, tan solo tu gran fuerza limita. Romperá la prisión de tu alma y matarás por fin tu presa.
Hello and welcome to the Kingdom of Spain, a country that made such an impact on the world and its history that even Americans know about it. Spain is a country located in southwestern Europe on the Iberian Peninsula and is bordered by 5 separate countries: Portugal, France, Andorra, Morocco, and unfortunately for them, Great Britain, as they still hold this overrated rock for God knows what reason.
Hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes.
Spain's climate varies throughout the country. In the northern region of Spain, the climate is more temperate and similar to the one found in France and Germany, with normal seasons and refreshing levels of humidity. Meanwhile, in the southern regions, the country becomes the ninth circle of hell during the summer. Not because it becomes that hot, oh no, but because it attracts thousands of demons each year, known to mortals only as British tourists. Unlike most European countries, Spain's government is a constitutional monarchy and a federation, which can only be described as the product of if America and the UK had a baby. Essentially, Spain is divided into 19 different states, or as they like to call them, autonomous communities, which all have differing levels of autonomy and linguistic and cultural differences. They are Andalusia, Catalonia, Madrid, Valencia, Galicia, Castile and Leon, the Basque Country, Castilla-La Mancha, the Canary Islands, Mauritia, Aragon, Extremadura, the Balearic Islands, Asturias, Navarra, Cantabria, La Rioja, and Maya and Ceuta. Also, contrary to most other European countries, Spain is yet another country that does not recognize Kosovo. Hold your horses though, it's not because Spain is one of Serbia's greatest friends, no dear viewer, it's because Spain has a Kosovo of its own, and it speaks a language known as Catalan.
Un gran escriptor català, en Josep Pla.
The fuck you say to me, you little shit?
Anyways, unfortunately due to me being a broke college student, we'll only be covering 3 communities, those being Castile y Leon, Madrid, and Castilla-La Mancha, or as I like to call them, the heart of Spain. To start off our journey, we go into Toledo. The city is located on the banks of the Tagus River and is considered one of Spain's oldest cities, as it was founded in 59 BC during the reign of the Romans. Over the years, many kingdoms and empires conquered the city, ranging from the Visigoths and all the way down to the Muslim Umayyads and Moors. This in return left a lasting impact on the city, as for centuries Toledo was a mixing pot of many different cultures and architecture styles, such as Hispanic, Renaissance, and Islamic. Walking down the beige, narrow streets of Toledo, you can often get the feeling you were transported back to medieval times due to the aged facades. And then a car shows up and reminds you you're in the 21st century and how the Industrial Revolution was disastrous for humanity. When arriving in Toledo, the first thing you will see is a medieval city towering proudly over you. After the reconquest of the city by Christians, Toledo became the Spanish capital, until the Spanish king started thinking he was too good for the place and packed his bags for Madrid, where the capital stayed up until today. This is evident as along the old town's borders you will see giant walls that fortify the city against unwanted visitors, which mostly consisted of people that prayed 5 times a day, didn't eat pork, and stoned anyone to death who dared draw a picture of their prophet, peace be upon him. As you start your ascent towards the city, you will be met with large Spanish-type buildings, imposing over you with their white and beige facades. The first thing you'll probably come across is the Zocodover Plaza, which is the town's central square. The citizens of Toledo organize a weekly market here to celebrate that. There, behind the Arco de la Sangre, you can also find a statue of the only Spanish literary character European high schoolers know about: Don Quixote. Don Quixote, Don Quixote, assieme all'uncciacchiazzi veled. Above Zocodover you can get a glimpse of the Alcazar, which was a palace built by the Romans all the way back in the 3rd century. During the Spanish Civil War in the 20th century, Spanish nationalist forces took over the castle from the Republicans. In an attempt to take the fort, the Republican forces captured the leading nationalist commander, Jose Mercado's son, and made an ultimatum to them demanding the fortress for his son. Instead of submitting to the demands of the filthy Republicans, Moscardo told his son over the phone, "Commend your soul to God, shout Viva España, and die like a hero," and refused to give up his precious fort like a madman. But yeah, his son died. Today the building serves as a military museum, showcasing all sorts of lovely gadgets us humans used to exterminate each other with. Moving south, you will stumble upon one of Toledo's most important churches, the Toledo Cathedral, which is an enormous Gothic church that dates all the way back to the 6th century. Before this beauty you see before your eyes came into existence, in this area stood another church. However, after the Muslim conquest of Iberia, that house of worship got torn down like a man's self-esteem after showering with a black guy.
Yeah, boy.
In typical caliphate fashion, the Umayyads erected a mosque in its place, which after the Reconquista also got burned down to the ground. The church, as you can see today, was built in the 13th century and was heavily influenced by the French Gothic style of architecture, and it is simply a marvel to look at. Across the Toledo Cathedral, you can find the Archbishopric of Toledo, which is the seat of the, well, Archbishop of Toledo. According to legend, the archbishopric was established all the way back in the 1st century, when Christians' favorite hobby was chilling on a cross in the middle of the Levant desert. It's a pretty alright building, very Spanish, very cool. In its vicinity is also the Toledo Council, which is another Gothic style building with 2 great towers. The council is in charge of the local municipality, and there you can find the mayor of the city. Nearby you also have the Church of San Ildefonso, also known as the Jesuit Church, which is another magnificent structure. This church started construction in the 17th century and finished 136 years later. It was built in the Baroque and Rococo styles of architecture, inspired by several other Jesuit churches found throughout Spain and Italy. The church itself is oriented towards the Cathedral of Toledo, and its dome is one of the highest points in the entire city. Generally, there are so many churches within Toledo, it's ridiculous. It's like every 5 steps you make, boom, another church, and boom, another one. They really are quite breathtaking though, and you could literally spend an entire day going from one church to the other and keep getting lost within Toledo's tight, narrow streets, whilst imagining you're back in time while your dearest family members were dying of the plague and being sold into slavery to the Muslims. While traveling throughout the city, you will find many medieval gates. One of the more famous ones is the Puerta del Cambron, aka the Gate of the Jews, which has 4 beautiful Renaissance towers standing on top of it. Near the gate is also the monastery of San Juan de los Reyes, which was founded by King Ferdinand II of Aragon and Queen Isabella I of Castile, as a way to commemorate the birth of their son and the Iberian wedding. It was built in the 15th century and is a prime example of Isabellian architecture, which was mostly predominant in this time period. By walking all the way down south to the city, you will meet the mighty Tagus River, which guarded the city from those pesky nargillah smokers. The Tagus River is the longest river in the Iberian Peninsula, spanning over 1,000 kilometers, aka 622 miles, for those of you that like to commit war crimes in the Middle East. No, not the British, their offspring. No, not Canada, the obese ones. Another interesting thing about Toledo is that throughout the city, if you look closely enough, you will notice some Hebrew insignia on some of the older buildings. That's because Toledo used to be home to many Jews throughout the medieval ages. Notice how I said used to. While many Jews settled within Toledo, most didn't stay there for long, as the Christian inhabitants of Toledo had a tradition of committing crimes against humanity, which would even give a Austrian painter a run for his money. In the 7th century, the infamous burning of the Jews occurred, where the Toledan government decided the best course of action to deal with the Jews would be to make them into barbecue. What's even worse is that in the 14th and 15th century, the Spaniards decided to make roasting your local Jew enjoyed by friends and families alike. And yeah, that would be Toledo. A city rich in history, architecture and culture, and maybe even a bit in anti-Semitism. It's a historic and religious center that formed Spain as it is today. What do you think of Toledo? Have you been there? Do you plan on going? Let me know in the comment section down below. And stay tuned, as next up we visit one of Europe's greatest cities, Madrid, where every Eastern European's favorite football team is located and even more great architecture is found. My name is Nick, and you've watched Living Ironically in Europe.
Jednog grba Kamila odmah se pomama.